while on the floor, so it doesn't block the public's view of you.
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
So you kick it over. You kick it over. Oh, yeah, no.
One is okay.
I'll kick it. They don't
At least
do it.
they're close. They're all set.
Okay. Oh, wait.
They'll probably not go in their chair and look at the television.
If you don't mind signing in, sir, please.
It's all work conservation.
Oh, what did
Oh,
it?
alternate, never mind.
Okay.
I got confused. I thought it read the wrong.
Okay. Please, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Trustee Cheney?
Here.
Trustee Foster?
Here.
Mayor Newhart?
Here.
Trustee Calora?
Here.
Trustee McKnight?
Here.
Stephen Gaba?
Present.
Mike Mosier?
Here.
Sadie Becker? Here.
And this evening, we have two public hearings, one on the tentative budget for the Village of Warwick for fiscal year 2023-24, and a public hearing on the proposed application for the Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2024. And Raina, if you would read the first public hearing, or public notice.
Please take notice that the public hearing on the tentative budget of the Village of Warwick for the fiscal year beginning June 1st, 2023 will be held on Monday, April 17th, 2023 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, at which time and place all interested persons will be given an opportunity to be heard. Copies of the tentative budget will be available for review on the Village's website, www.villageofwarwick.org, beginning April 7th, 2023. Hard copies will be made available to the public by mail upon receipt of written request. The compensation proposed to be paid to each member of the Village Board is as follows. Mayor, $56,487.42. Deputy Mayor, $10,053.49. Trustees, $8,478.17 each.
Okay. Thank you, Raina. And to start out with, I've asked our village treasurer, Sadie Becker, if she would give us a summary of the tax levy. Yes, please.
Okay, so the Village of Warwick stayed under 2% tax cap for the fiscal year ending May 31st, 2024. And the calculation is based on the following. The tax levy from the prior year, $4,158,804. The tax base growth factor from 2023 was 1.0023. Prior year receivables of pilot payments, $88,275. The allowable tax levy growth factor for 2023, 1.02. And then the pilot's receivable for the fiscal year ending 5/31/2024, $88,275. The available carryover for fiscal year ending May 31st, 2023 is 1,000. So that makes the 2% tax levy limit $4,254,502.
Very good. Okay. Thank you. And I'll give kind of a highlight of this year's coming budget. So I'm pleased to report, and this was definitely a task, that the village has remained within the 2% cap for fiscal year 2023-24. As defined by law, the allowable levy growth is 2%, or the inflation rate factor, which is the CPI, whatever is lower. The current CPI is 8.6%, 8.06%. The cap can be overridden by a board resolution. I want to say the difficulty was really about the costs of our lives, the costs of things, the costs of, doing projects, the costs of materials, labor, everything has just skyrocketed. And so the 2% cap was put into place pre-COVID. I forget how many years at this point, but quite some time, with no alteration or no understanding of inflation. So that's definitely a task for not only our municipality, but every municipality in New York State. Some highlights of this year's budget. The wastewater plant improvement plan is a $12 million project. The village received a $3 million grant from the New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. Through the sewer plant improvement land tax, we are able to save on a yearly basis those funds that will be used to repay the anticipated 15-year long-term bond. The village budget is divided into 3 categories: the general fund, the water fund, which includes purification and distribution, and the sewer fund. Under the general fund, projects this year include Village Hall upgrades, a new pole barn at the DPW garage to replace a construction trailer. In streets and roads, this year's budget includes the following: South Street sidewalk repair between 2nd and 3rd, a purchase of a Mason dump truck, and paving of the following streets: South Street Extension, Welling Avenue, Church Street, Cherry Street, Crescent Avenue. Under storm sewers, Country Lane is slated for improvements. In parks, new and replacement cameras at multiple areas in Stanley Deming Park locations, new toolcat attachments, backpack blowers, weed whackers, push mowers, and the continuation of the Memorial Park Master Plan and implementation of the first stage proposals of that plan. The following are grant applications with anticipated funding of $150,220. They include HUD grant for the South Street ADA sidewalk, and New York State DEC grant for 2 charging stations, records management grant, and a New York State courtroom improvements grant. Some grant applications have been submitted include RAISE grant for sidewalk improvement planning, and that's a federal grant. That, because of the, if we receive that grant, the implementation probably won't be until the next fiscal year. So it's not exactly a part of this budget. Other highlights included in the general fund are the creation of a village-wide newsletter and also community outreach on speeding, which has been an issue that we've been contending with and continue to deal with. And as a board, we really feel that a campaign is very necessary to really make it apparent that it is an issue, and we want to see resolution on some levels. In the water fund projects under purification, they include well number 3, construction, including a new sewer line connection, well number 2, module replacement, Maple Avenue pump station relocation. Under transmission, watershed land acquisition, water meter replacement, re-roofing at the water treatment plant. Our grant applications include US EPA lead service line inventory, LOCAP/DASNY Maple Avenue pump station relocation, New York State DEC WQIP reservoir land acquisition, all of these totaling an anticipated of $1,138,150. A recent grant submission not included in anticipated funding is the community project funds through the Office of Congressman Pat Ryan for well number 3. The sewer fund includes the following projects: sewer pump station chemicals handling equipment, electric motor equipment, replacement of secondary return pumps. For the sewer collection system are included purchase of a sewer jet truck, repairs to RBC units, and an inflow and infiltration study. In grant applications is the inflow and infiltration study for $80,000. The proposed water and sewer rates for 2024 are a 6% increase for in-village water rates and 2% increase on the in-village sewer rates. I'd like to thank the village board, department heads, village accountant Michael Vanieri, village treasurer Sadie Becker, and Deputy Treasurer Denise Bolness for their hard work, especially in the face of mounting costs and inflation. We've created a budget that is robust and that stays within the 2% parameters. There's no loss of village services, and major infrastructure projects continue. In my mind, this is a testament to our creativity and shared responsibility to the residents of our village. So with that, I'd like to open it up to the public. If you have any questions, we are here to respond and to answer. Did I leave out anything, Sadie? Just, yes, Mr. Scott.
Yeah, well, you brought up the two items, one about the Memorial Park. Now, you're saying that there's multiple phases going on for that?
There will be,
There will be, okay.
yes. Because the master plan, the comprehensive master plan is pretty extensive. And do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, sure. And so it's still in kind of preliminary draft form.
Okay.
But in whatever form it proceeds, we're still going to have to break it into phases because the funding to complete the park plan or implement the park plan is going to have to come from the general fund. And as you heard from the mayor, we can only cap that at 2% each year. And so with inflation and other rising costs, that basically means that every year we have fewer and fewer dollars to do more. So we also are, exploring partnership opportunities and grant opportunities. But we have identified the things that we think that the village DPW could take on and things that we think we would be able to integrate into future capital improvements provisionally. We will actually have another community meeting on the master plan, we think in a little bit later in May, maybe early May. And so we need to figure out that date, but we'll do an open house and it'll go on the website and stuff for comment and all of that stuff, yeah.
And the other item you brought up about the speeding, of
Yes.
course, that's one of the reasons why I came here. I know the camera's been up and running for a few months now. Is there anything coming from that, or is it time to talk about, bring it up, or to come back later?
Well, maybe it would be to talk about it more in,
Later on?
yeah, later on, but it is really important to us. I mean, those cameras do give us a certain amount of information. In the budget is to purchase more of that radar equipment.
Okay.
But also, there's other things that we think would be helpful, and we're exploring those. I mean, signage and, getting the word out, but, it's really trying to create a culture of a safer community. And how do you do that? How do you slow down pedestrians? I mean, the police are trying every way they can, and they've upped their surveillance. I've seen more cars stop on the side of the road in the past months than ever before.
I've seen that also.
Yeah, and so that's a good sign, that's a good indicator, because word travels fast that, you can't, speed through the village of Warwick, but it has to be continual, and it has to be on many layers for it to be effective. And there's physical things that we can do too, and we're exploring those. And whether it's raised pedestrian walkways or, there are things that can happen. As long as there are village roads. We don't really have that jurisdiction over the state road.
County, right, I
Yeah.
understand that, yeah.
But you brought up the other thing in terms of, the working on kind of the initial stages of implementation stages for the Memorial Park Comprehensive Master Plan. We're also, and within this budget and within this year, are going to be working on the village-wide Comprehensive Master Plan at the strategies for implementation of that. So that's another very important piece that I did not write down, so.
Okay.
Thanks.
Can I
Yeah.
add on to that just a little bit?
Sure.
We did, the raise application that the mayor spoke about a little bit earlier would help us design some of those traffic calming elements, but then during my update a little bit later, if you stay for the report out, I'm going to talk about another grant
Okay.
that
Yes,
we're
yes,
going to be
yeah.
pursuing.
Teaser.
Very good. Anyone else would like to speak to our board this evening? Okay. Well, with that, and board members, anything else that you would like to add?
I
Yes,
would
please.
just like to mention, because, where we did have a somewhat more significant increase was in the water and the sewer rates. And a couple of things to point out. We're very dependent upon moving the water, and we have to use pumps to do that. The pumps are electric. Everybody knows how much the electricity prices have gone up in the past year or two, so that's an impact. We use chemicals, and the chemical costs for 3 of the chemicals we used has increased between 45 and 55%. So part of that's the delivery charges that they have to pay. Fuel, which we use in our vehicles, has increased. So, you know, those are some of the things. I know, you know, healthcare, I think, has increased about 14%, and liability insurance is up about 10%. So, you know, to see those numbers and to see what we were able to do with the general was a tremendous effort and well done. But the water and sewer, because of, you know, other increasing costs and the things we have to pay for, that had to occur the way it did.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you for detailing that, because I think that's really important. Those numbers, when you hear them, it really strikes, you know, an understanding as to how much costs have risen. So, especially chemicals, it's pretty incredible. Yeah. Okay. So with that, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And the next public hearing, Raina, if you could read the public notice.
Notice of public hearing, Orange County Community Development Block Grant Funding, CDBG fiscal year
Thank you.
2024. Notice is hereby given that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick will hold a public hearing on the 17th day of April 2023 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, on a proposed application for fiscal year 2024 Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program. The Village Board of the Village of Warwick invites public comments and suggestions regarding projects to be considered for funding under the Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program. Under this program, a variety of activities as listed below are eligible for funding. 1, public works, public facilities, or site improvements. 2, provision of public services. 3, code enforcement. 4, clearance, demolition, and rehabilitation for public use. 5, economic development. 6, acquisition and disposition of real property for public use. 7, homeownership assistance. 8, housing rehabilitation loan and grants. 9, special projects for elderly and handicapped. 10, relocation payments and assistance. The Village of Warwick will be considering projects to be submitted to Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program. The deadline for submittal is Friday, June 23rd, 2023 at 4 p.m. The Village of Warwick Village Board will, at the above date and time and place, hear all persons interested in the subject matter hereof. Persons may appear in person or by agent. All written communications addressed to the Village Board must be received by the Village Board at or prior to the public hearing. Written comments may also be submitted to the email address clerk@villageofwarwick.org through April 17, 2023, until the public hearing is closed. The location of the hearing is accessible to persons with disabilities. If special accommodations are needed for persons with disabilities, those with hearing impairments, or those in need of translation from English, those individuals should contact Raina Abramson, Village Clerk, at 845-986-2031, or clerk@villageofwarwick.org, at least 1 week in advance of the hearing date to allow for necessary arrangement.
Very good. So I'll open it up to the public. If there is a project that you think about, or that you want to talk to the board about, or ask us to look into, this is the moment. But I just want to mention that the guidelines are very strict. They definitely are. There's certain projects that can be funded, and many that we would love to fund but cannot. So most of our funding at this point has been about handicap accessibility, removing barriers for people with any kind of challenges, and that has been very successful for us. Board?
Oh, make comments?
Yes, sure.
Well, I'm all about sidewalks.
Yes, you are. It's good.
Accessible sidewalks.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think later on, we have a letter from Community Development about some funding that we received for this, actually, it's really this coming year, they would like us to spend that money, that funding. So we do have a project for sidewalks for handicap accessibility that's from a previous grant and not a previous year, but we received it, and this is the time that it's supposed to happen. And that's between 2nd and 3rd Street. That's a rather large project. It's very involved.
On South.
On South Street, thank you very much. On South Street between 2nd and 3rd. And then our desire is to continue on South Street because it's a well-trodden path and it's in poor condition. And we did apply for that, and I believe our ask at the time was approximately $170,000 or $180,000. Based on the competitiveness of these grants as well, we did not receive it in the first round. I spoke to Community Development, and they said, your application was great, and what I furthered information on was also the possibility or that New York State will be repaving 17A, and for them to do the crosswalk improvements that they feel is necessary there for handicap accessibility, that we would have to furnish the sidewalk on each side of 17A. So that would be South Street Extension and South Street, so right by Larry's Deli. So what we heard back from Community Development is that they had some money that they could offer for that project, but it would only cover a portion of it. So if they do not have any more funds, then to actually do the entire project, then we may go back and then do a grant for the rest of South Street Extension. So I hope I've been clear. I'm kind of a little bit all over the map there, but the plan is to try to get handicap accessible sidewalks from 3rd Street to Galloway, and then the very first part of South Street Extension, which would really be the parking lot area of Larry's Deli. And to date, with the amount of money that we did receive, we'll only be able to do probably that portion by Larry's Deli, and then we'll work back towards 3rd Street. So, but our goal, sure.
Finish with
No,
the question is on the sidewalks of South Street, is it gonna be on both sides or is it just gonna be on one side?
just on one side,
Because
yeah.
there's certain areas, certain parts of South Street, people have sidewalks on both sides.
Yes,
So
yes.
would it be the opposite side of the park?
It would be the opposite side of the park.
Okay.
So there is actually, and we receive funding through community development to do some of the sidewalk or the pathway work in the park for handicap accessibility to the playground. And so that acts almost as a sidewalk, but it's internal to the park. But
There's also just, I don't know if you're part of that, but on Parkway, coming across from the park over across the street, there's that one crosswalk. It goes right to grass. It doesn't go to
Oh, okay.
a path.
That's great to know.
Because it's a blacktop sidewalk. It was concrete at one time. It's blacktop, but right there, it crosses over, there's no path for people to walk on.
Where is this?
Right across the Deming Park, right, it's a South Street. Mike, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Absolutely. Where Park Lane ends. Park Lane hits Park.
Well, there's nothing there from Park Lane over to the park, and people are constantly crossing because they park at Park Lane. But over by South Street, from this side of South Street, going over to Deming Park, there's a crosswalk, but it goes right to grass on this side.
Okay, we'll take a look at that, but I think Mike is aware of it, yeah. So that's
They
good.
have to clear the sidewalks.
Right,
Exactly where it is.
Right. So, but I mean, for us, or just a poor person in a wheelchair, imagine they go across the street and they hit
Grass.
grass, yeah, so that's something we'll look into. Thank you. Okay.
I think that's what he's talking about. Like
Yes. Oh, is this, yeah, that's the part, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Definitely. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments? May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Okay. May I have a motion to accept the minutes of March 6th, March 9th, and March 20th, 2023?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
And a motion to accept the following reports. March 2023 Clerk's Office, Justice Department, Building Department, and the Planning Department. February 2023 Building Department, Open Complaint Report, and Planning Department reports.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
And may I have a motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims in the amount of $171,192.47?
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. And we don't have a police report tonight. But Tom, would you make the first announcement?
Yes, the Village of Warwick celebrates Arbor Day 2023 on Friday, April 28th, 2023 at 9:15 a.m. at the Roger Metzger Arboretum at Stanley Deming Park.
Okay. And Barry, could you give us the second announcement then, please?
Actually, Mayor, before we
Yeah, do you want to give
move on
more?
from there, yeah,
Thank
there's a
you.
little bit more detail.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So the Village of Warwick Shade Tree Commission, the Warwick Valley Gardeners, along with the first grade classes from Park Avenue School, would like to invite everyone to our annual Arbor Day celebration on Friday, April 28th, 2023 at 9:15 a.m. The tree planting ceremony will take place at the Arboretum located in Stanley Deming Park. The Village of Warwick Shade Tree Commission will be on hand. Mayor Newhard will speak along with Warwick Valley Gardener Patricia Reinhardt. Waitson's Home Center will be distributing saplings to all the children who attend. This will be the 39th year that the Village of Warwick has received national recognition as Tree City USA. The Village of Warwick is one of the oldest Tree City designated communities in New York State. This is also the 23rd year that the village is the recipient of a Tree City USA Growth Award for demonstrating progress in its community forestry program. The Warwick Shade Tree Commission is responsible for planting, feeding, and maintaining street trees and trees in the village's numerous parks. The village's partnership with the Warwick Valley Gardeners has helped promote the education and public awareness of the importance of urban forestry.
Very good. Thank you.
Now I'm done.
Good. I was hoping you would read that whole thing.
I was looking for it.
Okay. And Barry?
Yes, the Warwick Valley Rotary Military Banner Program is underway. Please visit warwickvalleyrotary.org for more information. And in case you're not familiar, the Military Banner Program will install 24 by 48-inch patriotic banners honoring our veterans and active duty service members, which will proudly be displayed throughout the village of Warwick. And this was an effort that was undertaken a year ago for the first time by the Rotary, and they are obviously planning to continue it. So the information is on their website.
Very good. Thank you. Under correspondence this evening, we just have one piece of mail, and that was from Community Development Block Grant Fiscal Year 2023 award letter for the amount of $75,000 from the Orange County Office of Community Development for the Village of Warwick South Street ADA Sidewalk Improvement Project, and that's what I was speaking of earlier. So, and then under
Could I just add something to that?
Of course.
Because I think it's important to note. We weren't successful when we made the application for the $170,000 project that was going to extend the sidewalks from 3rd Street, where we were ending them, all the way out to Galloway. And as the mayor stated, it was important to do that because the state DOT was expecting us to do that so that it would coincide with the improvements that they were willing to make at Galloway Road. And I'd just like to say that the mayor was politely persistent and kept in good contact with the Office of Community Development at the county. And because of that, when some money became available because another project didn't work out the way it was expected to work out, the $75,000 was offered to the Village of Warwick. So it's money that was there and available, and the mayor had us in the proper position to be able to receive that. And I just wanted to make that note.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I am persistent.
Politely persistent.
So, under discussions this evening, we have the Village of Warwick Board of Trustee Rules of Meeting Procedure, and something that we've never had. And we thought, wow, with the new trustee on board, it's time. So,
I had sent around an email about these.
yes. It's not in our packet, though, I don't think.
Yeah,
As long as you're cognizant of what I said, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, they were good comments. Steve and I had agreed with all of them myself.
You do have a resolution on for tonight approving these.
Yes, we do, yeah. So,
Just approve them as is, or?
or with your changes, we could possibly do if the board would like to entertain that. So far, we've got Carly on your.
Do you want me to explain
Yeah,
why?
that would be
Okay.
good.
Yeah. So I think the meeting procedures are great, and I'm really grateful that Raina put these together. And I know that these were based almost exactly from NICOM's recommended approach. But one of the things that I noted as I was going through them is that they do seem really restrictive in some key areas, and so I had made a comment to Raina about that, and Steve actually provided some detailed comments. So, for example, do you want me to read through Steve's comments, or should Steve do that?
Steve doesn't have his comments with him.
Okay,
Oh.
so there you go.
Has such a good speaking voice.
Okay. So under order of business, Steve suggested considering moving the approval of minutes and the police report up ahead of public hearings, which is what we do anyway. The police report is usually after the public hearings, right? And then, and that way we get the meeting minutes out of the way, and then, the chief is able to give his report
That's right.
before public hearing.
Right, okay,
So I thought that made sense.
yeah,
Under public comment, so the provision states that the public may speak only during the meeting's public comment period, and at any other time a majority of the board allows. It also says speakers must limit their remarks to 3 minutes. This time limit may be changed to accommodate the number of speakers. Steve suggested that we keep in mind that enforcing these rules, there is a legal obligation, i.e. equal protection and First Amendment, to treat similarly situated individuals the same. So if we routinely limit speakers to 3 minutes, we need to have a good reason or some special circumstance for allowing a particular speaker to exceed that. Likewise, if we routinely allow people to exceed those minutes, then we need to have a good reason or some special circumstance for limiting the speaker. So it might seem like a small point, but if we are going to have that, there have been civil lawsuits filed about differences in the way that time is being treated. And so if we're going to do the cutoff, then we do need to make a statement about that and do it.
so
Just
what,
cognizant of that, you're fine, you don't need to make a change. Just be aware that when you allow people to speak, you're gonna treat everybody the same. If you
Right.
hold them to 3 minutes, hold them to 3 minutes. If you're allowing people to exceed 3 minutes, you gotta pretty much allow everybody to exceed 3
Sure,
minutes. That
sure.
doesn't say that you have to give somebody half an hour, but if you routinely are given 3 to 10, you kinda gotta give 3 to 10. And if you wanna say you're going to enforce the rules, particularly at one meeting, that's fine too. If you've done it differently in the past, just say, look, we have a lot on the agenda today. We're really gonna stick to 3 minutes today, and we're not gonna make any exceptions, or, you know.
Right,
just
as long as you
aware.
set the stage, you know, so,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Steve also suggested eliminating the requirement that people who wish to speak sign in at the meeting. That was the only one that I thought, because we do typically ask people to sign in. But
But not to sign up for
Well, it's,
speaking.
yeah, no, it's not to sign up as a speaker, it's just
That's
that
what
they're
I thought it
present.
was.
Yeah, no, it's their presence at the meeting, and that it helps with the minutes, because if the audio isn't that great, then the,
Then I may have been mistaken on that one. The only time I remember, and I've been here a little while, the board required people to have a sign-in sheet for speaking was when we did the annexation proceedings over jointly with the town.
right.
But I don't remember there ever being a sign-up requirement to speak in a public hearing here.
Oh, no.
They sign into the meeting.
They sign into the
I
meeting,
thought
but
it was-
no, there's never been a requirement for
Then
that.
that one's.
But
Okay.
I
Yeah.
believe that was the intent of this requirement. Individuals wishing to speak during the public comment period must sign in.
Oh,
So-
And I think that's the best way to go with it, because it allows whoever's presiding at the meeting to look at that list and select the person as opposed, and ask them to step up to the microphone or at a podium and speak, as opposed to just having conversations amongst the individuals seated in the audience.
Well, if you treat your sign-in sheet as the sign-in sheet for any public hearings that are on that night, I don't think you're gonna have a problem. But for example, tonight, if you'd said, you wanna speak on the community development block grant, you gotta sign in separately. You wanna speak on the budget, you gotta sign in, so you're gonna end up with different sheets. You may have people who miss it, who then wanna speak. It can get a little messy.
Well, yeah, but then how do you know what they're gonna speak on?
That's true.
With the sign-in sheet, they should be asked to put down their topic, if it's related to a motion or if it's related to
Or
a
you could just
general
have separate
comment.
sheets for whatever you have for public hearings.
I
You
think
have one
there should
tonight
be.
for CDBG and one for budget, and then you would just hand them up to the mayor and he could go off that. That's up to the board. You can
I
do
think
whatever you
there
like.
should be separate sheets. Sign in for everyone that's at the meeting to sign in, I'm here, and then a separate, I want to speak sign in sheet.
I agree.
I don't have an issue. I don't think people would have an issue signing in twice.
well, so what if they're in the audience and then they realize that
They
they
wanna
would
speak.
really like to speak on a topic, but they haven't signed
Signed
in?
in.
I mean, so could it just be that before they leave, they write next to their name that they spoke or what the topic was, if that's that big of a deal?
Oh, we have it on tape.
Yeah, we have it on tape, so I don't know that I see the need for a separate sign-in. I agree, because I thought you were saying we don't need them to sign in at all, but,
No, I was speaking
Yeah.
about signing in for a, I don't know that you need to have them sign in. It's a nice thing for the minutes and everything else, no doubt about it, but, you know, I think if somebody came to your meeting and said, I ain't signing in, you'd be hard pressed to say it, then you have to leave, you know?
well, no, we wouldn't do that, no.
They could write down a
Can you
false
imagine?
name, I mean, you know,
Yeah.
you get a lot of little orphan Annies signing in.
I mean, there are two different times that the public can address the board. And one is, agenda items, and then the other would be for something that maybe not be on the agenda, new business. And so are we asking them to sign in for that, or are we just talking about public hearings?
It's completely up to you. There's no legal requirement that anybody sign in. It's
Right.
just, this is your rules of procedure, and if you have a good reason as to why you want to have people sign in, whether it's to complete the record or make the minutes easier or what have you, that's just fine. But a lot of municipalities have sign-in sheets just to attend the meeting or for the public hearings. How enforceable they are, and, how much trouble you're going to get. You usually don't have tremendously large public participation at these meetings. Every once in a while, you'll have one where there's, more than 10 people, but generally, it's not a big list you're looking at.
what if we ask people to state their name before they speak, because then that can be
We do
captured.
that all the time.
Yeah, we ask that anyway, so, I think one of the worries that I have about having like a separate sign-in form to speak is that it makes this process feel less accessible, and it's also more administrative burden on our staff that doesn't seem necessary or value add to me.
I agree with you, Carly. I don't see where it really makes a difference, especially, I mean, if there was a heated topic, maybe that, in that case, you would make that exception. But I think for a normal business, I don't know if we need it.
But how would you know if something's gonna be
Oh,
heated
we-
and a lot of, you would know? You would know?
You would know.
You and I are the only ones left from that meeting.
Yeah, right.
Well, you can always impose an ad hoc sign-in requirement if you do have a meeting where you think you're going to have a lot of people and difficulty keeping the names straight, or if you just want it so that you can have some order of calling people up in.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
there's nothing that says you can't start the meeting by saying, tonight we're having a public hearing on this proposed zoning change, and understand that there may be a number of people wishing to speak. There's a sign-in sheet there, anyone wishing to speak, please sign in, and we'll call you in order that you signed in, or whatever,
Right.
whatever it is, so. But I mean, to have it in for every meeting and every public hearing. You can do it if you want to, don't get me wrong, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to influence you, it's just, that was my thoughts on
So board. Tom, what do you think? What is,
I don't think this is consequential,
yeah,
this particular part about signing in and
Yeah.
names. And
yeah. Okay,
so I don't have any strong thoughts on it.
Okay.
okay. So where are we?
I was looking at some of other Steve's comments, that Carly, if you want
You
to.
wanna, okay.
Yeah,
All right, but so far it sounds like we're in agreement on all but this one, and maybe we need to come back to this one.
yeah,
Okay. So this is another one, this was the one that I had particularly, I was concerned a little bit about this one in the meeting comments, but Steve's comments said, we may want to consider removing the provision that says board members may not respond to questions at meetings, but shall request that inquiries be submitted in writing to be responded to at a later date. He said, sometimes you will want to respond at the meeting, and I'm sure that the public will appreciate having their question answered on the spot. For example, if at a meeting, some member of the public asks, what day is the Too Good to Toss event going to be held? I don't think you want to say that you can't tell them that, and they should submit a written request. Maybe you could rephrase that provision to read, the village board is not required to accept or respond to questions from the public at meetings, but may request that inquiries be submitted in writing to be responded to at a later date. I didn't mean to add my opinion at the very beginning of that, so I apologize. Any discussion on that one?
yeah.
I think it's fair if someone asks a question of a particular member, but I don't think they should be obligated to answer. And by the way, this is written for the Board of Trustees, but it should also apply to the other boards that we have. Because there are public hearings where residents will have good input, and sometimes it gets a little heated. I've been in some of those. And, you know, you can't control what someone else is going to say, but you shouldn't feel obligated to respond to every little thing.
I guess a question, I mean, good point. Is that something that the other boards should do on their own, or should we do it for them?
No, the general rule, and it may even actually be in the village law, is that planning boards are allowed to, within the boundaries of the town code and the village code and the village law, to establish their own rules of procedure as far as notice a public hearing first, take comments and so forth. And certainly by practice, that would extend to a zoning board and AHDRB and anything else. Generally speaking, unless it's something big, like you want to have recordings done or something like that, even televise them, you leave the individual procedures to the individual boards. it would be looked on, I think. I hear where you're coming from, Tom. It would be nice to have uniform procedure, and they may very well. You circulate to this, to them, they may adopt it on their own. But I think it'd be a little bit of an overreach to say, we're gonna tell you how to run your meetings now.
But we'll give them a good template.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair.
Yeah.
The issue with this one, let me just explain my thoughts on it. You have to have structure to your meetings. You have to have some rules as to how things are done. You have everybody talking at once, and it can get to be really messy. But you don't want to put into place rules which bind you up to do things or not do things, which you may want to do or may not want to do. And to say, we're imposing a rule on ourselves that we can't answer questions from the public. We have to demand that they submit all questions in writing. I think.
I don't think that's the
you're-
spirit, it's not the spirit of the board. You know, we're here to,
So
we serve,
You
you
might want to
know.
either leave it out, or you might want to rephrase it as I suggested, saying, we're not required to answer any questions. It's not a Q&A session, it's a board meeting. You know, but, and we reserve the right to, say if you have a complicated or, kind of out there question, maybe a little exotic or something we haven't looked into, we can require you to submit it in writing.
If we don't have the answer at that moment, like, or if we're
Even if
worried
you
we
do.
might be wrong, yeah.
Right. And I think we do that as a rule, if there is something that's, we don't have that information in front of us, or there,
But there have been times in the past where there's either been dialogue between a member of the board and someone in the public.
Right.
Or between two members of the public, and it just starts to, it seems to have a rolling effect.
Right.
And it's difficult then to rein in.
right.
Yeah, well, the point of a rule like this is if you have someone who comes to the meeting, it's been my experience, not necessarily here, but I mean anywhere, that they may have a bit of an attitude, be a little hostile, and they have a list of 16 questions, 25 questions. They're gonna drill down the board and ask, I want answers on every one, and it just derails your meeting. You really get hijacked into, somebody's agenda of really highlighting one particular issue that they're interested in, maybe something that they have, personal interest in. So you want to be able to say, listen, we're not, a couple questions, simple things, it's fine. If you have 16 questions, submit your list, we'll get back to you.
Right.
And that's the point of a rule like this.
So is everyone okay with modifying the language to say that the board may request that the question be submitted in writing?
Yes, I think that makes much more sense.
Yes.
It's, it's just something we have in our back pocket in the event of the person with the 16 complaints.
We have three more. While I like the proposal to require that all remarks must be addressed to the board as a body and not to individual board members, I'm not sure that it's workable as a practical matter. Warwick is a small village, and there's always going to be someone who says Barry or Michael or another trustee, I know you've been working on the X project, can you tell me, about it? It doesn't seem right to tell them that type of question or comment is out of line. You can certainly leave the provision in if you like, but I think you'll end up ignoring it more than you end up enforcing it.
I think and how I read that too, is more that, somebody may address a board member, but also may attack a board member. And so I think that's where it really comes in as a level of protection. When it comes to somebody addressing one of our board, any of us, because we are liaisons or we're involved in that role, I don't think that's the issue at all. And we would continue to do that. We have to. It's part of us, so.
I agree with
Those
you.
are the existing rules, right? Because I remember reading that it said that somewhere. Anyway,
I haven't seen any rules for this.
We don't.
that was always my understanding. Oh, maybe from other, maybe just from other.
In your handbook,
It might have been in
maybe?
the handbook.
Yeah, in the yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly as Michael said, the whole point of a rule like this is you don't want someone standing up and singling out a board member and, I have a beef with you, Tom McKnight, I gotta tell you,
Some do.
Well, hard to imagine
Shouldn't
it
be
could happen,
allowed.
but it could happen. And you want to have people be civil as much as you can, and one way to ensure that is to have them address their comments to the board as a whole. But one, you're gonna have exceptions where people are just have something they wanna say to you individually, and so they're gonna do it. And two, once they start doing that, it's awful hard to pull them back and say, to address the board as a whole, please address the board as a whole. And they're gonna keep doing it anyway, and I suppose eventually you could cut them off if they do, but 99 times out of 100, it's gonna be the benign, you know, gee, I wanna thank you for the great job you did in the grant, or, you know, coming to the Easter egg hunt, or whatever it might be.
And to your point, you have to treat everyone the same, right? So
If
you
they're
have a
similarly
pleasant-
situated, you have to treat them the same, that's right.
Similarly situated. Well, that goes into the last point, not to skip ahead too much, Carly, but I don't know if you want to touch on that, Carly, since you're on a roll.
Okay, the,
The last point.
provision stating that speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste was recently held to be unconstitutional by a federal court in a Virginia case. While outright profanity or words inciting violence, so-called fighting words, may be banned from public meetings, rude or vulgar or personal comments can't be. It's true that New York courts and the U.S. Supreme Court haven't ruled on the issue yet, but we wouldn't want Warwick to be the test case. I'd
that
recommend
was
deleting this.
So
Interesting.
to
Yeah, I
that point,
would-
that
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 was
goes hand in hand
interesting.
with that last point, and, you know, if someone has a problem with someone in particular, I mean, not a bad venue for it, in my opinion.
I think that if someone addresses the board, then the mayor or another board member then can decide who has to answer it. If someone comes and says, I have a question about senior citizens, you could say, Mary, you're the liaison of senior citizens, would you like to answer this?
Yes, I mean, I agree with that. So, how would we put that in language?
Is that an argument? Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's pretty much already there if we make that change. About, you know, not addressing the board, or addressing the board, and then whatever the question is, if it's answerable, it gets deflected to whoever's best to answer it.
I mean, in the same way, just before, when I turned to Carly and I said, would you like to speak to that?
Right.
Yes.
You know?
Right, yeah,
Exactly. So,
But that wouldn't preclude Carly from saying, may I speak to that?
no, it would not.
So Steve, if that's removed, what rule do we have, or what do we have that would allow us to calm somebody down?
Well, there's not a lot you can do. Like I said, if it's a profanity-laden tirade, you can tell them that, you know, profanity is not acceptable. If it's language of violence, you can say that's not permitted at public meetings. I'm sure you would apply that even handedly to anybody who did. But the fact of the matter is, the First Amendment is pretty broad, and if they come in here and decide they want to tell you people exactly what they think of you, well,
They can do it for 3 minutes.
Right. And getting them to stop would be just as easy as getting them to stop swearing.
But yeah, that's, in all seriousness, that's pretty much it. You don't, I mean, sometimes the chief is here, sometimes he's not. You don't have security at these meetings. So, I mean, you
We
can
have cameras,
stop and
but-
call, you can take a break, and, you know, there's various ways that you can go. But as a practical matter, if somebody pops off and starts dropping profanity, you know, you're pretty much limited to stop that. You can't do that. We're gonna have to cut you off if you keep it up. You know, there's not much you can do there. So I would leave that one out altogether. You kind of mash together the remarks addressed to individual board members and the comments on individuals. I think the comments on individuals is just never gonna fly. Not only because, you know, you run into problems as to what's being said, but how it's being said. It's hard to give a speech without mentioning somebody. I mean, sometimes you just have an issue, and that's just fine. But if you have a beef about your neighbor, or you have a complaint about an individual board member, or maybe a worker or something like that, a department head, you know, you're gonna mention individuals. And to be to sit up here and say, you can't mention individuals when you speak, you're gonna get a lot of blank looks. Well, how do I tell you what I need to tell you? You know? So I really think you should take that one out, just you're gonna run into all sorts of problems with it. The one about addressing the board, that's completely up to you. And the, you know, the rules of decorum, I mean, except in extreme circumstances, which I really don't think you need to write down. But I mean, if you want to, you can limit it to family and other comments. I would just take that out.
Could we, put it as like, you know, I know this says guidelines, but could we have a community guideline that is like, you know, that we request that people
You can
that
request
are
anything you
speaking?
want, that's
Yeah.
fine. It's when you're gonna get in trouble is when you say you're not following what we requested, we're gonna cut you off now. It may seem frivolous, I'm telling you, I've been at meetings where I've seen people trying to egg boards into taking action which would violate their First Amendment rights. I know that sounds wacky, but I've seen
Oh,
it.
no, I have
It's
that as
a-
well.
But the
yeah.
3 minutes is not a violation?
As long as you treat everybody the same, whether it's overall or at that particular meeting, you're gonna be just fine with your 3 minutes. It's when you let somebody talk for 3 minutes when they're telling you what a great job you did on, you know, Memorial Park cleanup, and you cut them off as soon as they start talking about the tax cap. That's when you get into problems.
Yeah, okay. Unless they've requested ahead of time to do like a presentation before the board. That's different.
Presentations
Because,
would be different, like I said,
Yeah.
similarly situated people have to be treated the same. If you come in, you ask to give a presentation and the board allows it, you're not similarly situated anymore. You're not just someone who stood up to make a couple of comments.
yeah.
But I think we have enough changes that we can't do it on the fly. with
No, we
resolution.
can't, no, that's fine, which is, I think, would be-
And just if I could, just to point something out, in the order of business, in the past, we have had public participation at one meeting 2 times and this other meeting 1 time. And so one of the things that I had proposed was the first public participation session would have to do solely with items that were on the agenda, a motion that the public wanted to speak to. And that would occur at every meeting. And then at the second time for public participation, that would be just general items. If there was something that was of a concern to a resident, they would raise that at that point in time. And that we would have that at both meetings. So there would be 2 public participation opportunities at each meeting, which right now one of the meetings only has 1.
I support that wholeheartedly. I think that's a good approach.
I agree.
So I'm going to circle back to the one thing I think that we did not kind of come to a resolve on, and that's the sign-in.
Should we go around and do like a quick little
Quick little
mini
poll.
poll?
You can express your opinions, no straw votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And I'll say one more thing before you get to that. Look, this is being adopted by resolution.
Yes.
If you try it and you don't like it, you know, we're gonna go with the sign-ins, and then you try the sign-ins, and every week it's a hassle. You can just adopt a resolution eliminating that section. It's not a local law, it's not written in stone. You adopt this by resolution, you can always change it.
Do we have the ability, if we foresee a large crowd that a lot of people may want to speak, that we can ask them to do that
That's my
for that
concern.
particular meeting?
The board can, and I think the mayor can actually, at any particular meeting, say, these are the rules that we're going to have in terms of the sign-up sheet. You can change the time, well, if you adopt by resolution, you can't, then you need a board to do it. But if you adopt by resolution, say it's 3 minutes, you can change it to 5, you can change it to 10, you can change it to 1. You know, I mean,
And I think along with that, one of the things that needs to be reinforced and probably even available in writing to anyone who wants to speak are what the rules are, that they've got 3 minutes. And that they have to come to the microphone or the podium. And needing to give their name and address, those types of things.
you're gonna wanna post it on your website, and I would think you're gonna want the mayor to announce before any public comment. We're gonna limit everybody to 3 minutes as per our rules, and we would ask that whoever, you know, don't know if you can have a microphone or not, but I mean, whoever scans, please state your name. You may or may not want their addresses.
I mean, it's always on the agenda.
Yeah, that's true.
And is
People can just
there,
read it.
is there a sign there that says about the 3 minutes? Should we
No.
maybe
Well, it
put
doesn't
that-
because that's not really a sign-in for speaking, it's just a sign-in.
But just
But that's
like,
what I'm suggesting.
yeah, okay,
That-
yeah, just a
that-
general guideline.
That sheets, pages of that be available for anyone so that they understand what the rules are.
And I agree with you. I would be concerned. I would want to know if a lot of people do plan on speaking, just to sort of allow for different times and just know what to expect.
We have a checkbox on the sign-in sheet. And then that way it's not precluding folks, like you could say, okay, like these folks signed up to speak, and then you could say at the end, is there anybody else that would like to speak? I'd like to speak
But
tonight.
but
Not
the
what the
purpose of
rules say now,
the
but-
purpose of
Yeah.
the sign-in is so that the presiding officer has a list of people that they would then call on one at a time. And there would be, I guess, at the discretion of the presiding officer, opportunity for others to speak that didn't sign up. I don't know, is that,
Yeah.
Makes
Yeah, you
sense.
You could make them sign before they spoke. If anybody else wants to speak, yeah, I want to speak. All right, please sign the sheet, and then you can, so you could get around it that way if you want. Again, your meetings, unless there's
Yeah.
going to be some sea change, this just isn't going to be a big issue.
Right.
You know?
Right. I don't have a problem with not having a sign-in, maybe have a checkbox or whatever, and, you know, if, according to what Steve said, you know, if it was felt that on a particular meeting that there was reason to provide for a little more structure to that part of the meeting, then we can do that.
That's right.
So you put a checkbox by the sign-in for the meeting sheet, I want to speak. That good, yeah?
You could, I mean, if we even want to go that far.
Okay.
But we always have that option of creating a sheet or having a sheet available that, would a meeting warrant it, we would be able to roll that out easily.
So I'm just trying to look at it practically, and, okay, the audience came in tonight, they signed in, they would like, if they wanted to speak during either moments that the public could speak, they would check by their name. Then that list would come to me in the beginning of the meeting, and then I would have that as my, you know, invitation or
Opportunity to
request, yeah.
invite people.
I'm just trying to figure out logistically how that works. If
Oh,
somebody
that-
comes in late,
Yeah.
then,
What if someone comes in late?
Well, it's open to you to be able to say.
is there anybody
is
else
there
that would like
anybody
to
else
speak?
who-
Yeah, okay,
Who didn't sign up.
okay.
Got it.
But it seems like if we don't include that requirement, then you can just do that. If we end up with 50 people in here, then we could have that. And if we have a small but dedicated cadre, then
Right.
we,
An intimate meeting.
yeah, an intimate meeting, then we don't even have to do
Do the
that.
checkbox. right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm fine with the checkbox and making sure that that information is available as people sign in.
So are we removing that line, just so I know how to edit the document?
I think
removing
we
that line?
yeah, I think we're proposing to remove it because we don't have to put that in the,
Right.
it's not a requirement, really. Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
it's almost, you know, it's like one of those things, like if it's better to define it as we need it, instead
Right.
of saying that we're required to do it
Yeah.
this way.
And
We
we
don't-
already have the requirements for 3 minutes. Sorry.
We don't want to stifle the public from addressing us.
Right.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to, you know, maintain some semblance of order. And a night like tonight, we don't need to maintain some semblance of order. It's very orderly, so we can
right now.
Yeah, right now.
Wait till they get to comments.
Do we have comments?
Approximately 30 seconds. I was just looking out to the audience.
Okay.
And just another question, so I'm
Sure.
sorry, I don't know what the resolution was for the last three on the page that says guidelines for public comment. Are all three of those being removed, that remarks must be addressed to the board, the opportunity to speak cannot be used to make comments about any individuals, or the rules of courtesy and decorum? Are we removing all three?
Yes, what, with the exception of saying instead of may not,
This language would be added.
Yes, that for sure,
yeah, yeah,
yep, for the questions, yes.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So it sounds like we have accepted all of
Steve's,
Steve's
yep.
suggestions. So do we want to move forward with the resolution tonight, or do we need to review it again?
Why don't we just, have Raina just finalize and clear it up? I'd rather take our time on it and do it correctly. So. And thank you for reading all that for us. Appreciate it. So that means that motion, let me get to it. Yeah, we'll just table it, okay. Okay. Privilege of the floor. Okay, have you signed in?
Did you take a box?
I have signed in. I'm Scott Brown.
Hi, Scott.
I was a candidate in the recent elections. Both my comments are about individuals. I hope that's all right.
Go for it.
I want to thank the clerk and her team on the efficient and professional job running the election.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yep,
And I want to congratulate Mary, trustee Kalura,
Thank you.
and wish her best wishes in her new role.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
very good.
Thank you, Scott.
Very kind.
Thank you, Scott. Yes,
Hi,
Hi.
my name is Donna Douglas, and I've been in past meetings where it didn't always go so smoothly, coming from Blooming Grove.
okay.
So what was required was just state your name and address, so for the matter of record, they would have that.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes things do come up and you don't know that you may speak, and then if a topic comes up and you decide you want to speak, they would have it on record, your name and address.
So that's interesting to me because we don't usually ask for people's address.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we just ask them to state their name, mostly before the minutes, so that we have a clear. And Steve, is there any?
Well, the advantage of having somebody state their address is you can tell whether they're a resident and therefore have a little bit of a stakeholder aspect to what it is they're
True.
saying, or if it's somebody who's just coming in to push a particular issue.
A
which
carpetbagger.
But I mean, it might be, I don't know, somebody who's very interested in a particular environmental issue.
Right,
And they
that's
want to
true.
come here and say, gee, you really ought to adopt this resolution. There's a big to-do right now with Indian Point releasing water into the Hudson. It affects you in the broad sense, of course, but not as immediately as municipalities that are on the Hudson, and you could have somebody come in here and carry on about that. Again, you may want to do it, you may not want to do it, but it'd be nice to know that they're from, I don't know, New Windsor, as opposed to, a local resident. So that's the only point of the addresses.
Yeah.
Right. Board, what do you think of that?
In particular, I think it's important to know whether the individual is a village resident and they're speaking as a village resident as opposed to someone else.
Yeah.
So,
I think it helps the
address
board,
in and of
yeah.
itself, I don't know that that's necessary, but certainly a statement saying they are a village resident or what they're here representing.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree, I agree with that. I actually would prefer that people not state their individual addresses because just for safety concerns.
Yeah,
it's-
I get that too, yeah.
Now it's on, it's on the internet forever. Somebody doesn't like the comment, they have the person's name and address. I would prefer that they state their residency,
Okay.
what town they live in.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So
I
that's the
agree.
meeting procedure policy. So is that do you want to make that change then? It says speakers must give their name, address, and organization, if any. That's under guidelines for public comment.
So,
We'll change it.
residency, yeah.
Residency.
Yeah.
See, there we go. Okay. Anyone else this evening before we move on? Tom? Yes?
Tom Sanford, I'm the village resident. Again, I'm gonna bring up the traffic issue.
Mhm.
I've noticed that the sign has been moved on Forester. It's not lit up. Now, it could be recording, because I've heard that before, it's been recording without being seen. Is there any possibility that that gets moved further down Forester? The reason I'm saying that is because right now it's getting the traffic coming off of Galloway. You got the stop sign right there, McFarland Lane. The sign is like 200 or 300 feet from that stop sign. People aren't up to speed. They shouldn't be, but by the time they get by me, down by Memorial Park, they're doing 40 miles an hour. And you guys noticed that today with just the traffic, and you guys had signs and standing there. And people weren't even slowing down for them. So it's something,
Terrible.
it's a big concern. We're lucky no one's been hit.
I mean, we'll look at that. That's a very simple request. And you can make that request really just to our DPW department. You don't have to wait for a board meeting. You could just give us a call and just say, what about this? Or I think it would be more effective if you put it, yeah.
The telephone pole's up further up. It's on the same side of the street as I am, and if it's facing up, I assume it's picking up traffic coming down. If it just get moved down for a few days, you'll see a significant difference between the speeds.
Yeah, so I had asked Mike to just turn it around the pole so we can get traffic coming the other direction. I don't know if it's smart enough to see across the lane, so I think we need to take a look at that.
Okay.
But further down, I agree, because when you're going downhill, you're picking up speed. I don't think there are any poles down there to mount it on.
On my side of the street, on the same side of the street it's on now.
But
poles
I mean,
are on
I think the radar device is supposed to be on the same side of the road for
There's
optimal
there's
reading.
nothing at all on
Yeah.
Forester. Everything's on going up the Forester to Galloway.
Yeah. So-
Yes, logistically, it works better the way we have it set. It has to be on the same side as the road, as a telephone pole, it picks up traffic better.
Right.
We spun it, it only picks you up if you're within the first 15 feet of the thing.
Okay.
So,
It's not ideal. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
I agree, it should be moved down a little further. I was gonna actually talk to you about a few other spaces tonight,
Yeah.
but it's all about having a place to put it.
Yeah.
Because it's not on a trailer, we have to stick it on something.
So it has a universal bracket. It can go on one of those green corrugated posts, but my concern is it's too low to the ground and someone could
And the
mess
weight,
with it.
and the weight of that panel, yeah. Yeah.
It's an expensive machine, I
It would
don't-
have to be on a telephone pole somewhere. so.
Yeah.
But we'll figure it out.
Okay.
Even if I gotta go in that intersection somewhere, and we'll figure it out.
Well, how does it clamp onto the telephone pole? What about a tree?
I'll act like I didn't hear that.
Tree City.
USA, there I am. Trying to get aboard.
You can figure it out.
There's a
Take that off the,
There is a telephone pole. I see one. In the,
Well, there you have it.
there's one, there's actually several that are really close to the park. See? Boom, boom.
Yeah, but that's on the opposite side of the street.
Oh, he needs it on the
So-
other
On
side?
this side,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, shucky darn.
So
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's a telephone pole on my.
Right.
on my
Wait,
lawn.
wait. I wanna go get it in a minute. What was that?
Shucky,
Shucky dung?
shucky darn.
Shucky dung. Picture my kids heard that.
I put in for several more in the budget, but
Yeah,
you kind of heard everything. So we have one more we could buy it this year, and we already have a lot of requests for Maple, West Street, Galloway,
Jerry.
yeah, Cherry, you
Yeah,
name it.
Or
And I love that people do request it. So just so everyone knows, we've been taking this sign and leaving it in a location for every few weeks. It's self-powered by solar panels, and what it allows us to do is to capture all that data that I need to summarize after we're happy with how many locations it's been in. But it'll help with another one, right? So as part of this campaign of trying to promote just more awareness and safety, I think, a data-driven approach will help.
And generally, people are going over 40 on any of the roads that we're putting it on.
And
It's like pretty consistent.
the other day, I was walking my dog and a car flew right past the stop sign on Burt and Forest and never even stopped. I yelled and the guy just kept going.
Yeah.
Wasn't in a rolling stop, he just 40 miles an hour.
I won't tell you what happened to me last week. I was going for you then.
All right, thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Tom. Okay. We'll move on to motions, and trustee Cheney.
Motion to accept the bid from and authorize the mayor to enter into a 3-year contract with H2O Innovation Operations and Maintenance LLC for professional services to operate and maintain the water production system for a first-year monthly lump sum fee of $12,627 and wastewater production system at a first-year monthly lump sum of $14,328 as per the DPW supervisor's recommendation.
Second.
Any comments?
It ended up being about a 2% increase over what we were paying, what we're currently paying this year. It's a 3-year contract with 2 1-year options, and each year it goes up by the Consumer Price Index for the Northeast region. We sent announcements to 7 firms and we only received 1 bid.
And that is the former JCO, who
Right,
has
it's our
been our...
current operator.
They changed the name of the company, is that?
They
They were purchased
Or
by a
acquired,
larger, they
okay.
were acquired by a larger company.
Okay. Did you say it's written in the contract that it would be the CPI, equal to the CPI?
For the Northeast region, yes.
Ooh. Which is all the more challenging to stay within the 2% tax cap.
Yes,
That's right.
it is.
Okay, so we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to hire James Quackenbush to the position of seasonal Department of Public Works laborer at a salary of $18 per hour for up to 40 hours per week for 16 weeks, with a start date of May 1st, 2023, per the recommendation of DPW Supervisor Michael Moser.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to hire Ryan Richards to the position of seasonal Department of Public Works laborer at a salary of $18 per hour for up to 40 hours per week for 16 weeks, with a start date of May 22nd, 2023, per the recommendation of DPW Supervisor Michael Moser.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to DPW Supervisor Mike Moser, DPW Work Leader Jason McCutch, and DPW employees Tim Palmer and Tony Rivera to attend excavator safety training on Wednesday, May 17th, 2023 at Somers Community Center in Yorktown Heights, program to include damage prevention and up-to-date safety protocols while digging. There is no cost to the village for this training.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to DPW Supervisor Mike Moser, DPW Work Leader Jason McCutch, and DPW employees John Santiago and Andrew D'Alessandro to attend NYMIR Work Zone Safety Regional Seminar on Thursday, April 27th, 2023 at the Town of Wallkill Golf Club program to focus on work zone safety and liability in unsafe work zone setups. There is no cost to the village for this training.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to re-levy on the Village of Warwick 2023 to 2024 tax bills, unpaid water and sewer fees, and alarm fines to properties listed on the attached document, including errors and omissions. RPTL 520 prorated taxes as per the village assessor, with a total re-levy amount of $1,281.36.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to hire Devin Fox to the position of Village of Warwick office intern at a pay rate of $16.50 per hour at 20 hours per week for approximately 12 weeks, with a start date to be determined by Village Clerk Raina Abramson.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to shred 37 boxes containing files from the clerk and treasurer's office which have reached or are beyond their retention date according to the New York State Records Retention and Disposition Schedule, LGS-1, on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, during the Warwick Lions Club Shred Fest event at a cost of $7 per box.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the Village of Warwick Summer Concert Series schedule per the attached calendar provided by the Village of Warwick Summer Concert Coordinators.
Second.
Any comments? There has been some discussion about broadening the concert schedule and trying to utilize the stage at Stanley Deming Park. But this is the year, and two of the concerts this year will be there. But one of the things that we recognize is the infrastructure of that stage there's necessary improvements. And so I'm hoping that this year we'll get a lot of work done and have even more concerts in Stanley Deming Park. And maybe the focus of those concerts will be a little bit different than the concerts we have at Railroad Green, which are wonderful, but they are, very, focused towards an adult audience. And, we try to do a series that is diverse and that really speaks to the entire population. So it may be where we find more kids concerts, more teen concerts, more family-oriented concerts for the other stage. So that's something we'll be working on this year. So with that, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to table the motion to adopt the Village of Warwick Board of Trustees Rules of Meeting Procedure effective April 17th. Motion to grant permission to the Union AME Church Missionary Society to use Railroad Green on Saturday, June 10th, 2023 from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. with a rain date of Saturday, June 17th, 2023 for a community health fair. Community facility use permit, proof of insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to close Railroad Avenue on Saturday, June 10th, 2023 with a rain date of Saturday, June 17th, 2023 from 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. for the benefit of the Union AME Church Community Health Fair.
Second.
Second.
Oh, Mary said second.
I said
Okay.
second. I'll say it louder next time.
All in favor?
Or I'll get urinated.
Yeah.
Aye. Motion to grant permission to the Warwick Merchants Guild to hold their annual Pickers Paradise Sale on Main Street and Railroad Avenue on Saturday, July 8th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. with setup to begin at 8 a.m. and breakdown complete by 6 p.m. And on Sunday, July 9th, 2023 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with setup to begin at 8 a.m. and breakdown to be complete by 4 p.m. Completed facility use permit, proof of insurance, and security deposit have been received. Event is in coordination with the Warwick Valley Garden Tour.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Motion to grant permission to the Warwick Merchants Guild to place no parking meter bags on the meters on Saturday, July 8th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and on Sunday, July 9th, 2023 from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. along Main Street as follows. Eddie's Roadhouse to Bank Street, G's Restaurant to Fetch Bar and Grill, Bertoni Gallery to Etched in Time, Be Free to Cafe Dolce, Aikens Pharmacy to WVT for the benefit of the annual Pickers Paradise Sale. Pickup and return of no parking meter bags to be coordinated with the Village of Warwick DPW clerk.
Okay.
Discussion?
Okay.
Does
Do we have a second?
Do we have a
Second.
second,
Oh, sorry.
second and discussion? Thank you. Who seconded it?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion.
Discussion. Does this include blocking off the handicap spot in front of Aikens, or will that remain open?
That always remains open.
It always remains.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I did want to ask, are there any, so the road's obviously going to be open, vehicles coming through. Has there been a need in the past for orange barricades that we have, or anything separating some of the tents and tables from the road?
What they've done in the past is they put out bollards, and then there's tape that goes along the bollards. It's not, it's not as much of a, maybe separation, but people have tents, and so the tent themselves seem to act as kind of a separation piece. I don't think we have enough.
No, we usually put them at the beginning of the street, so you can't drive into them, you know what I mean? If you're going
Right.
on Main Street, we'll put it right at TD Bank, so you're not going into them. Or at the WVT, so you're not heading down towards. You know, I mean, with the flow of traffic, we'll block the very end.
Okay, just curious, I mean, just think about July 8th and 9th, there's a lot of people driving through
Yeah,
on Main Street, and there's just
there's always
tent
lots of
legs
people.
separating people from a
Yeah.
car, I don't know, I don't.
Well, people usually put their
I don't
table,
like
they put their tables at that end, so then
So you're
there's,
walking in from the sidewalk.
from the sidewalk, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I don't remember where I left off. So did I go to, did I talk
15.
about 15? Okay, thank you. Motion to place no parking meter bags on the meters along Railroad Avenue on Saturday, July 8th, 2023, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, July 9th, 2023, from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the benefit of the Warwick Merchants Guild Pickers Paradise Sale, pickup and return of no parking meter bags to be coordinated with the Village of Warwick DPW clerk.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close Railroad Avenue on Saturday, July 8th from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Sunday, July 9th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. for the benefit of the Warwick Merchants Guild Pickers Paradise Sale.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to amend the motion approved on February 21st, 2023, granting permission to the Warwick Fire Department to have exclusive use of Memorial Park on Saturday, June 3rd from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. to safely turn trucks around at the completion of the biennial Firefighters Parade, to include use of the Veterans Memorial Park Pavilion to serve food, the McFarland parking lot, the Veterans Memorial Park field between the pavilion and last ball field to serve beer and present trophies to attending companies, the Veterans Memorial Park parking lots for fire apparatus parking, and the front of Veterans Memorial Park to park cars of parade participants and their families. Setup would take place from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event would take place from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. The event is in coordination with other organizations that regularly use the park for practice and games. Completed park permit and proof of insurance, including use of host liquor liability, have been received.
Okay.
Second, just discussion.
Yeah, discussion, please.
I talked to Melissa Stevens, president of the fire department, and they are no longer intending to use the ball field for serving beer because they have to drive a truck on it and they are fearful of the damage, and Little League's going to use it up until 4 o'clock. They want to set up a little earlier than that, so they're going to be on the pavilion side of outside the ball field, but on the pavilion side with that. So I guess I'd offer an amendment to the motion to remove the words "and last ball field to serve beer."
Okay. And
This is somewhat confusing, because how is this different from the first one? Just the locations and times? So the one in February
Mostly it's
21st,
times.
just
Yeah.
the times? Okay.
And
I
I don't know whether
I don't
the
have
first
the
one
February
mentioned,
21st minutes here, so I didn't.
I don't know whether the first one mentioned parking on the way in for people who were participating.
No,
Or
it was
friends.
it was exclusive use of the park from 5 to 7 p.m. to turn trucks around as a truck turnaround only.
yeah,
So they
Yeah.
decided they wanted to hold their entire event instead of going back to one of the stations to hold their event. And Barry, just because I want to make sure I get the motion correct, I was reading it that they were going to have the beer between the pavilion and the last ball field within there.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, then I withdraw my amendment.
okay. Yeah. Thank you, Raina. That's what I thought.
So I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that I
thank
give
you.
them the correct
Thank you.
information.
Yeah, I withdraw.
Okay. Any other comments? So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to Warwick Little League to use the Veterans Memorial Park Pavilion in the surrounding area on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for Picture Day activities instead of the previously approved date of April 15th, 2023. Completed park permit, security deposit, and proof of insurance have been received with original facility use application approved on February 21st, 2023.
second, just a quick discussion.
Sure.
Why don't we just amend the prior motion rather than creating a new one? Because now we have that scheduled for, what was it, April 15th. The prior motion scheduled for April 15th, and now this is saying moving it to April 22nd.
What?
Right, in the past, I think we had a motion, or if I'm
Yes.
misremembering,
Right. It was the,
to reserve the pavilion for the 15th.
But that motion also contained approval for the parade, approval for the opening day ceremony.
Oh, it was caught up in
and
everything
some other
else, yeah.
things, so it was just a
bundle.
single part of that motion.
Yeah.
So this is probably the cleanest, easiest way to do
Okay,
it.
thank you.
okay. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to grant permission to the Warwick Wascals senior softball team to use the over 35 field in Veterans Memorial Park from April 18th, 2023 through October 29th, 2023, with games on Sundays from 8:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. and on Wednesdays from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. in coordination with Warwick Little League. All events must be in coordination with other activities taking place in the park. Completed park permit, proof of insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ms. Kalura.
All right. Resolution adopting the 2023-2024 village budget. Whereas a tentative budget, the proposed village budget for the Village of Warwick was prepared and introduced for the 2023-2024 fiscal year, and whereas a public hearing was held on April 17th, 2023, and all interested persons were afforded an opportunity to be heard with respect to the proposed village budget, after which public hearing was closed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the mayor and the Board of Trustees of the Village of Warwick hereby adopts the proposed village budget of the 2023-2024 fiscal year, including any amendments to such budget as approved by the Board of Trustees, which shall, upon adoption, become the final village budget for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. And be it further resolved that the mayor, the village clerk, and any officer, employee, or consultant, as directed by the mayor, is authorized and directed to take any and all actions that are reasonably necessary, proper, or convenient to carry out the purposes of this resolution.
Second.
Okay.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolara?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to approve the budget modification request as per the village treasurer's memo dated April 12th, 2023.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And Tom?
I have a motion to appoint Naughton and Torrey LLP as attorney to the Village of Warwick Zoning Board of Appeals.
Second.
A quick discussion?
Yes.
I don't know if you would like to.
We interviewed a number of firms, and and they were all wonderful, wonderful applicants. Some very, large firms, but this is a particularly interesting one. It's a two-woman-owned firm, and they specialize in ZBAs throughout the region. And those were some of the factors. One of the women actually lives in the Village of Warwick. And so those were some of the back details of why we felt that they would be an interesting candidate and, a good pick for the ZBA attorney.
And thank you to the other firms who
Yes.
we interviewed. I mean, it was, every one of them was qualified and exceptional. So,
Yeah.
That's great.
Anyway, so we have a
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
motion to amend the 2023 Village of Warwick Zoning Board of Appeals meeting calendar from the third Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m. to the fourth Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I Motion to appoint Matthew Lopinto as a member of the Village of Warwick Architectural and Historic Review Board to fill a vacancy of an unexpired term through April 7th, 2025.
Do we have a second?
Oh, second?
I'd like a discussion on this.
Sure.
Please. As the liaison to the Architectural and Historic Review Board, I was unaware that this was,
I apologize. It was, the interviews were done with Michael Bertolini and a member of his board and myself. And so I apologize that you were not part of that.
okay, thank you. So what were the findings of?
The findings
This
were
particular
there were a number of applicants. This gentleman is actually an architect. So what's great is he fits in the criteria of the Certified Local Government Program as well.
Okay.
So that's what we were looking at.
Okay. And Mr. Bertolini gave his comments to you as well?
He sure did. Yeah.
Okay.
No, and it was a very positive. It was,
Okay.
yeah, they were very impressed with this gentleman. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion to appoint Glenn Ryan as alternate member of the Village of Warwick Architectural and Historic District Review Board with an annual term through April 1st, 2024.
Second.
And again, there were a number of applicants. They would either have been the board member and then, or the alternate. And so Glenn was actually away when we initially did the interviews. He was in overseas, but when he came back, there was an interview process, and he's a local contractor, so he has a building background, and that's what actually, was very interesting about him. He's also an antique dealer, so kind of a combo. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion to appoint Lynn Cheney as Commissioner of the Village of Warwick Shade Tree Commission with an annual term through April 1st, 2024.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
Just discussion, I know
Sure.
Lynn is a master gardener,
Yes, she is.
highly knowledgeable,
Yeah.
and I think she'll be great as the commissioner.
I'm looking forward to working with her. And, of course, we have our tree planting coming up, so that's going to have a baptism by tree. Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Abstain.
Thank you, Barry.
Orange County Planning Intermunicipal Agreement. Whereas the Village of Warwick has received a proposed intermunicipal agreement from the County of Orange, under which certain types of smaller land development projects will be exempted from referral to the County Planning Department pursuant to General Municipal Law 239-M and N. And whereas the village is willing to enter into the intermunicipal agreement proposed by the county, now therefore be it resolved as follows. One, that the village board hereby approves the proposed intermunicipal agreement. Two, that the mayor and the chairpersons of the village planning board and village zoning board of appeals are authorized to execute the intermunicipal agreement.
Second.
Okay.
Discussion.
Sure.
Just, when I read through the agreement itself, there was one spot that I kind of came to and I scratched my head. It's the third bullet under number 2 on page 2, and it says new site lighting, if proposed, utilizes full cutoff luminaries and does exceed IEA recommended lighting levels. It should be does not exceed. The document we will be receiving that the mayor will be asked to sign will be corrected for that.
Good catch.
So, yeah, well, and not to toot my own horn, but apparently 20 municipalities passed on this and nobody saw it.
There you go.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it was on the phone with the commissioner of planning, but he did seem a little bit red-faced about it. So.
devil's in the details.
Yep.
Okay, so we have a second with that change.
Yeah, I don't think the change
Or the
has to be
two-
made.
okay.
It's,
It will come
Yeah,
in the
it'll-
appropriate way.
okay.
Okay.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Kolar?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes.
Okay, I have a resolution proclaiming June as Monarch Butterfly Month in the Village of Warwick. Whereas the Village of Warwick recognizes the importance of the monarch butterfly and the vital role it plays in our ecosystem. And whereas the monarch butterfly is a valuable pollinator, essential to the health of many cultivated flowers and crops, and serves as an indicator species for the ecological health of large geographic areas. And whereas Monarch City USA, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping the monarch butterfly recover city by city, will recognize the Village of Warwick as the first in New York State to be designated as a Monarch City USA member. And whereas the Village of Warwick encourages all residents to create healthy habitats for the monarch butterflies, including planting native milkweed and nectar plants to provide habitat for the monarchs. Now therefore be it resolved that the Village Board, the Village of Warwick, does hereby proclaim the month of June as Monarch Butterfly Month in the Village of Warwick. Be it further resolved that all residents are encouraged to join this effort to help protect and conserve the monarch butterfly population by creating healthy habitats for them. By planting native milkweed and nectar plants, we can all provide the necessary habitat for monarch butterflies to thrive in our community. Let us work together to support the recovery of the monarch butterfly and ensure that it continues to play its important role in our ecosystem.
Second.
And I'll just make some comments. So this came from a number of residents that came to us and asked if we would be willing to become a monarch city. And they're passionate about this, but it is a good passion. And actually, even in our comprehensive master plan for Memorial Park, there are areas that are selected areas that will be pollinator fields. And so that's a really important part of this program. This program doesn't cost the village anything. There will be a cost of some signage, but that is about it. There's no dues. It's really more about public awareness. And our local Warwick Valley gardeners are very keen on this as an issue, and are creating a much larger kind of pollinating garden in Pine Island, in one of their gardens in Pine Island, with a water feature that is part of the, what is good in terms of creating a pollinator garden specifically for monarchs. So I think it also fits into our certified, into our Climate Smart Community program, because it's all about protecting our environment and protecting the animals and insects in our environment that make us.
And there's discussion with some of the residents about a pollinator pathway.
Right, that's right.
Allowing a path for not just monarchs, but other pollinators to really bring the benefits that they do. And I think it's fitting that the village is, I think, the first in New York State.
Yeah.
We are the first municipality in Orange County to receive a Climate Smart Community certification, and within the top 7% of municipalities in New York State. So I like to see these sort of activities that the village can take on, especially one with little to no cost in this case, maybe some signage.
Yeah.
But
It's very exciting.
I think it also, with signage, it also shows that we care, or, that the environment is one of our greatest priorities. So anyway, we have a second?
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
yes.
Trustee Kolar?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Very good. We have an addendum, and part of that addendum is correspondence. And sadly, it is a letter of resignation from our part-time water billing clerk, Mary Alice Cahill. Mary Alice has not been with us that long, but in a very short window, demonstrated such organizational skill. She worked as a part-time water billing clerk and really took the department and created a lot more. She streamlined things. She very quickly educated herself as to the ins and outs of water billing and the water department, and it's much more involved. It's not just about accepting payments. It's also dealing with the water department and dealing with shut-offs or dealing with people closing, and so they need water readings. There's a lot of scheduling that has to go on behind the scenes, and Mary Alice took it on incredibly well.
And Mayor, I would say people also in distress.
Yes.
As a very kind person, who's the person you want having those conversations.
And yes, exactly. And thank you for pointing that out, because, our responsibility is to serve our public, to serve our community. And if you are in distress, then we're trying to help you in any way we can. And Mary Alice was perfect in that role. So I will miss her. The entire staff will miss her, because she definitely was so professional, but she's decided that she wants to travel, and that's a great thing. And I can't blame her. So anyway, we have that letter, but we have some motions to deal with that. And so why don't we do the motion? Actually,
Is that me?
that would be you, Carly, I think. Yeah.
Motion to advertise for the position of full-time billing control clerk in accordance with civil service requirements.
Okay.
Second.
So there's some discussion here. It was a full-time position, but then we thought, okay, let's try it out as a part-time position. And actually, how many hours, do you remember how many hours that a week that, it's not 20, it's based on,
It's based on the number of hours in the full-time position, so according to civil service, they can work half the amount of hours, so it's 16.75 hours per week, or whatever that equates to per year.
Right.
So Mary Alice was able to work, greater number of hours some weeks, as long as she didn't go over the threshold for the yearly
Right.
number of hours.
but by that, only being here limited hours meant that there had to be backup from the rest of the staff, which was fine, because our staff accommodated that. But it did put a lot of I would say stress, and there were times when it was very difficult for Mary Alice to have that continuity to cover or to deal with issues that that she had to deal with on a daily basis. So I propose that we look at it again as a full-time position. I think it merits it. There's a lot of details to it, and I also think it would be more attractive to find somebody for the job. I think that it would be difficult, and it was difficult to find somebody to do that limited amount of hours per week. So I'm just bringing it to the board's attention.
So just for clarification, all we're doing is giving permission to advertise for the position. We're not authorizing the position
No.
in any way.
No.
And that would occur when a name was brought to us to authorize a full-time position and hire that person. Right, okay, yeah,
Yeah, unless you have a resolution creating a full-time position,
Yeah.
this is just for the advertising.
right. Yeah,
Correct.
because I think, there are pretty significant cost implications to doing this.
We realize that.
And I'd really like to see those numbers and figure out whether it's affordable.
So there will be opportunity to discuss this in detail. Okay. Because one thing that I was aware of that the software that we use for this, Edmunds, my understanding is they are going to support auto bill pay.
Right.
I don't know if that's already a capability, but I think that's coming down the line. If we have a certain percentage sign up for auto bill pay, I think that cuts down on some of the work. So just some initial thoughts. But again, this is just for advertising. The one concern I have is I don't necessarily want it to be misleading to people who believe it will be a full-time position when that has to be discussed.
Right.
Well, the way you present it is the village is thinking of creating a full-time position of water billing clerk. Would you be interested in filling that position in the event that we decide to go forward and create it? And you see what we got out there, and you may come back and say, only part-time works, or we don't have any, people for this at all, we're gonna have to go put some other way. But just because you advertise for a full-time position, like you say, as long as you're upfront about it, you should have no problems,
So one of the things that we're dealing with is the clock, because Mary Alice's last day here will be in May. And so she gave us 2-week notice and then an extended time, but not with a full schedule. So, and it is a civil service. If it's full-time, it's a civil service position. If it's not full-time, then it is just free, open to the entire public. But if it's a civil service position and someone on a list, they potentially have already the background for this position.
Is there a current list?
Yes, there is.
Is there an opportunity for, because I know that the clerk's office is a very busy office and there's always a lot going on, and my understanding is that the deputy clerk also supports water billing, and that the time for, I wish Sadie was still here, but the time for the deputy treasurer also supports the billing.
That's right.
But the time to be a deputy treasurer is not a full-time, it does not have full-time requirements, so so there is time that can go towards billing. If we are advertising for this position, is it possible for this position to be shared between water billing and support to the clerk's office? I don't know, we haven't talked about that, I don't know if that would be desired, but if, for example, it's not needed for them to be doing water billing full-time, that they could support the clerk's office.
So my understanding with civil service is there is actually a job specifications, and they have to stay within the job specifications. Our hope, though, is that we would be okay if we asked them to become a notary, if that was allowable, because that would be very big. We probably do 15, maybe 20 notarizations a day, which is a large interruption, so that would be great. If they could help with answering the phones for the entire office and not just the water billing like the prior full-time clerk did, water billing clerk did, as well as help us out with the basic garage sale permits, things like that, fill-in, handicap tags, things like that. So definitely they would stay within their job specifications. They couldn't be, for example, typing minutes or any of that, because that's well out of their realm.
Yeah, if it's an established position like an NEO or something like that, you're not gonna be able to go to civil service and say, help us craft this to what we need. If you want some sort of a hybrid position for clerk, you might be able to go to them and say, well, this is just a different type of position we want, can you help us create a new, just for our village, civil service position? And you may be able to do something there as far as whether it's notarizations or typing minutes or what have you.
We've explored it in the past, if you recall, when we were considering splitting the positions, or when we just did, when we had a part-time clerk, a different part-time clerk, who was also spent half her time in the court. We explored different options of how to even have her be full-time, and how civil service could help us to create a position. It was quite difficult.
Yeah, if you've got something that's pretty well established, you're not gonna have a lot of leeway. But sometimes you could come up with a position, where you come with a hybrid. So you gotta talk to them and see what they say.
Yeah, so for example, if this is a position that would not be doing minutes or preparing for board meetings, but could potentially support, some of the initiatives that come up. So for example, helping to prep public outreach things, or, those would be allowable uses of their time. Like, how restrictive?
Well, you're gonna have to be pretty particular as to what it is you want them to do. And if they say, no, it already falls within the parameters of this established position, they're not gonna create a position that lets you have a combination of existing positions. You can hire one or the other. But sometimes what you want done doesn't fall within one or the other. You can come up with a new position for the village. But you're not gonna know until you, and when you do talk with civil service, you're gonna wanna be very particular about what it is you want this person to do, so they can tell you, yes, this is something we could create a new position for, or no, it falls within the established positions we have. So you're gonna wanna put some thought into it before you contact them.
But like the mayor said, we're really, just in the timeline of things, if we were to actually be able to, if we're going full-time and we follow the civil service canvas procedures, by the time we have the interviews and appoint someone, it would be very hopeful that we would do that by at least the second meeting in May, which is pushing it. We lose Mary Alice that week. The second meeting in May is like on the 17th or so, or 15th, and then her last day will be on the 19th. So we wouldn't have any training time. And then the clerk's office is going right into tax collection. So it's going to be very busy to try
Right.
to train someone. It seems to keep happening. To
Right.
train someone and go
Right.
into another very busy time period.
And at this point, Raina is the trainer.
Yes,
So
I am. Yes,
that's,
But you're probably
So
not
that
gonna
seems-
have time to look for another position from civil service if that's your timeline.
Right.
You almost have to hire somebody who's a water clerk, and, you can look into modifying it later if you want, but for now,
And we've had experience with both. So we had Diane Shorter as the full-time water billing clerk, which was fantastic. And then during the period of COVID, we streamlined things quite a bit. And then when she retired, we made things a little bit more efficient as we could, so that when we were taking a fresh set of eyes, look at the position, and thought that it would be best that we could make it work with part-time, and that it would really work that way. But the clerk's office is just so very busy. I don't know that the water billing clerk would have time to do outside initiatives, but I think certainly because we've seen it work, help with the daily interruptions, which are the phones, the customers at the counter, the notarizations, handicap tags, parking permits, garage sale permits. That would be a very big help, actually.
So with this full-time equivalent job, this would take the water billing responsibilities from the deputy treasurer.
yes, I
And
would,
then that would free up time for the deputy treasurer, who
right. And then,
seems very good with public.
yes, she's very good with public, and so maybe that's,
Maybe that's,
where
because
we
then
can-
that
yeah.
role already seems maybe more flexible.
Mhm. I believe it is.
Okay.
And that would, I think that's an interesting way of looking at it,
Okay.
Well, wouldn't they be the same civil service requirements?
No, the
Well, no,
deputy,
you're saying the deputy treasurer would
Deputy treasurer.
be freed up to spend more time with customer service. Yes, and that's what I would hope very much so.
Yeah.
Denise is very good with the public, for sure.
My point is, I think that those responsibilities now are changing. Wouldn't they be holding to the same requirements?
Deputy treasurer?
Yeah.
Deputy treasurer is not a competitive position, it's appointed, so she
It's
should
more
be
freedom.
within,
Yeah.
she should be
Okay,
within the job
okay.
specifications, but she can, just like the
I understand.
water billing clerk.
So there's a
she
little
can-
bit more flexibility.
yeah,
Mhm.
Okay.
okay. So we have a second, all in favor? Aye.
This would be Mary, right?
This would be Mary.
Oh, another loved one. Resolution establishing water infrastructure reserve fund. Whereas the Village of Warwick wishes to establish a capital reserve fund for the purpose of accumulating funds to be used to pay for the replacement of the village's existing main water storage tank with 2 new tanks, and whereas in order to establish such a reserve fund, it is necessary for the village board to adopt a resolution setting forth the terms and conditions of the fund. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1. That pursuant to Section 6C of the General Municipal Law, the village board hereby establishes a capital reserve fund to be known as the Water Infrastructure Reserve Fund. And 2. That the purpose of the Water Infrastructure Reserve Fund shall be to accumulate funds to be used to pay for the replacement of the village's existing main water storage tank with 2 new tanks, and 3, that the initial deposit into the reserve fund shall be $70 from the water land tax collection, and 4, that the future source of funds to be deposited into the reserve fund shall be the annual land tax allocation to the water fund in addition to tap-in fees collected for water connections, and 5, that the maximum amount of deposits to the reserve fund shall be $4 million.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
We have a discussion on that.
Sure.
So Barry, what is the relevance of the $4 million maximum amount for the reserve fund?
I believe it's just if we were to collect more than the anticipated cost of the water tanks, to just allow us to do that before we actually went to construction.
Does that have anything to do with the actual construction of the tanks and the installation?
I'm not sure.
The 4 million, I mean,
The 4 million does
seems
not, 4 million
arbitrary.
is not, it's greater than the currently anticipated cost
Okay.
of those 2 tanks.
So it's just setting a cap.
Yeah.
I understand.
Because the next amendment is increasing the waste facility reserve fund from 4 million to 8 million.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a different fund.
Right.
And that's a fund that already exists. And we have reached the
The
end.
form.
Yes,
So is this just a general amount that is typically selected, the 4 million cap? Okay.
No, it
Well,
was
this was-
selected
this-
based on the anticipated cost and just to give us cushion.
They just happen to match?
Yes.
Well, I don't want to get carried away with reserve funds, but when you create a reserve fund, it's supposed to be for a specific purpose. It can be for a particular construction, as is proposed here, or it can be for, a broader purpose that you anticipate having to spend money on in the future. And with reserve funds, you're supposed to come up with a rough idea, as Barry says, you can, and you should, build in a cushion so that you don't come up short. And you put that on as a cap, because the idea behind reserve funds is to have money to do something. It isn't just a place to park money.
Right.
You don't take tax money and put it aside without having some idea as to what you're gonna use it for. So, under the general municipal law, you establish a cap. When you come up with a reserve fund, you want it to be broad enough to cover all the costs that you have. If 4 million seems like a good round number to do it, if 8 million does, so be it. It's not exact, because it's money you have to spend in the future, you don't know exactly what it is. So that's why it's in there. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily gonna spend $4 million on this. It means that as far as the fund goes, this is a rough estimate of, if we have that much money, we're gonna be just fine to do this. So you may be able to bring this project in for much less than the cap on your reserve fund. You won't know until you actually go out and do it.
Okay.
But that's the only significance of those numbers.
Do these funds receive interest?
You can invest them however you want.
Yeah.
They can be interest bearing, sure.
yes.
Well, more or less however you want. Yeah. Fiscal responsibility obligation.
I met this guy Ponzi, he told me where to invest.
So, just a further question or clarification. So it says, in addition to tap-in fees collected for water connections. The tap-in, according to our fee schedule, we have 2 items. One is a water service application fee per unit, and the other is a cost of service pipes, which is the tap-in, what is, I think, normally known as the tap-in fee. The tap-in fee is used to pay for the village to actually dig up the water main, put the tap in, tap the water main, and run to a curb stop. So should we be using, because that's not intended for any other use but to pay for that activity. So should this say the water service application fee?
Well, you can call it whatever you want as far as that goes. The idea here is that if you have excess funds there, you can put them into this account in addition to the land tax. Otherwise, the money's gonna go to general fund. If you want, you could move it out of general fund into the capital reserve. But
It wouldn't go to general fund. It would, it's within the water budget, so it would become revenue within the water budget, and it would end up, if there was an excess, as an unexpended fund in the unexpended fund balance.
all right, that could be. I was under the impression that if you had funds that you received from fees, that they go into general fund because they're there to offset your costs.
But our costs are in the water fund, so
So if that's the case, then they do go into the water fund.
yeah, they do.
But anyway, that was the idea behind that. You could put, if you had excess funds, you could put them into this, this capital reserve fund.
But it would probably make more sense to change it to the service application fee.
The water service
The water,
application
yeah.
fee.
If you want to do that, you certainly
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Just gonna have to move to adopt it as amended.
Okay, so I would move to amend it, number 4 to read, that the future sources of funds to be deposited into the water reserve fund shall be the annual land tax allocation to the water fund in addition to water service application fees.
Second.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Okay, trustee Cheney?
What are we doing?
Oh, sorry about that.
What are we doing? We're voting on the amendment?
Yes.
We're voting on,
Because Tom's.
The amended motion.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you just vote to approve it as amended? That way you don't have
Okay.
to do two motions.
okay.
Okay. That's what we're doing.
I
Yes.
thought we did, yeah. That's what we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Flora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Resolution amending the terms of the village's waste facility reserve fund. Whereas in 2018, the Village of Warwick established a capital reserve fund pursuant to Section 6C of the General Municipal Law called the Waste Facility Reserve Fund for the purpose of accumulating funds to be used to pay for the design, construction, and operation of wastewater management facilities owned and operated by the village. And whereas in creating the said fund, the village provided for an initial deposit into the reserve fund, established the annual land tax allocation as the future source of funds to be deposited into the reserve fund, and set a maximum amount of deposits into the reserve fund at $4 million. And whereas the village now wishes to amend the terms of the village's waste facility reserve fund to increase the maximum amount of deposits into the reserve fund to $8 million. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the terms and provisions of the Waste Facility Reserve Fund as set forth in the aforesaid 2018 resolution are hereby amended to provide that the maximum amount of deposits into the reserve fund shall be $8 million.
Second.
Trustee Cheney?
Yes.
Trustee Foster?
Yes.
Trustee McKnight?
Yes.
Trustee Flora?
Yes.
Mayor Newhart?
Yes. Okay. And that's our motions for this evening, so we'll move on to reports and,
Amended motion was, I think,
Yeah.
moved by the mayor, seconded by trustee Cheney. And that's the one that was adopted, not the original. You can check it on the video, but I'm pretty sure that's the way it went down.
okay. Reports, Barry?
Yes, just a reminder, at the last meeting, it was announced that hydrant flushing was going to begin tonight. So just a reminder that that's going to occur this week and possibly into next week. And with hydrant flushing, your household may experience brown coloration to the water. It should only last a very short period of time. probably the quickest way to get it through your system is to find a good source of water use that's furthest away from your from where it enters your structure, and probably it's going to be your tub, like a second floor bathroom tub, and you just run that and it should clear up even more quickly than if you did it off your kitchen sink. And as I had said last week, we were unable to perform the 2 flushings we usually do each year, and so there's probably going to be a little more of an impact relative to experiencing brown water. Second thing is, on Wednesday, we were notified, the water department was notified that there was a leak in the Highland Avenue tank. It was a leak, it was on Saturday, it was a leak that basically was kind of spraying out a pretty strong mist, but you know, over a pretty good area. It was determined that it wasn't that significant a leak, it wasn't affecting how our operations were going, so it was decided to wait until today to have a specialty firm come in and try and repair the leak without draining the water tank, without emptying the water tank. If we empty the water tank, that means that everybody in that sector would be on boil water notice. Fortunately, it worked, and it was able to be repaired as a kind of a wet repair, and it's holding up fine, I guess, as far as we know, and expect it to. It's something that's I guess a fairly common repair that's made. So I just wanted to thank the water department for being diligent about that over the weekend, and getting the contractor here to make the repair, and also H2O Innovations, Keith Herbert, kind of spearheaded that, because I guess Chris is doing the ground penetrating radar this week, so trying to find some of our valves and lines that are in the concrete.
Yeah,
Thank you.
That's it.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Barry. Carly?
Yep, I have a couple updates and then future discussion points. I think maybe for our next meeting, if we could talk about the Safe Streets for All grant, and I'll talk a little bit about what I'm thinking here today, and then I'll also provide an update on the Memorial Park master planning process. So we had a meeting on Monday with our stakeholder advisory group, where we presented the revised preliminary draft of the plan based on the comments that the community members had provided, and we're looking to move toward a public sharing of the draft plan, as well as an open house, so that the plan would be shared online and then also through an open house. And so what we're thinking provisionally is that the open house would focus on the Veterans Memorial Park Master Plan, but that we would have some materials available for other critical projects that people might have questions about. So maybe a handout on the budget, and so would be interested in hearing from the board if there's anything else that we really want to kind of have available. We think that we will do it at Veterans Memorial Park in the pavilion and on the weekend. Although there's a question of whether or not we should have a night during the weekday available as well. But I think we're thinking of doing it the once. And then the structure would be that we'd give an overview presentation of the plan, and then have boards up similar to the way that we did the initial listening session, and people could provide both written and verbal feedback on the plan. And then we were talking about finding a way to have it posted in Village Hall so people could see it as well. And there was a request to make a short little video, so I'm going to be reaching out to you, Tom, to talk about how to do that. Yep, so that's an update on that. And then also the state, I mentioned during the last meeting that the Safe Streets for All grant notice of funding opportunity has come out. That's a little different from Raise. There is a 20% match on that project, and 40% of all of the funding that's available nationally has to go towards planning activities, which they didn't meet that cap last year, so they're rolling more money over. There's about $1 billion available, which is fun. And so what I'm thinking could make sense as a scope, because the application is due July 10th, so we have a little bit more time than we had with Raise. And what I'm thinking we could do, and this is what I'd like to discuss during the next meeting, but I'd just like to plant the seed for the board to think about, is developing a cost estimate and including an application to bring all of our sidewalks up to state of good repair. So I spoke with Trustee Cheney about our intern potentially supporting the cost estimating for that. And as well as including demonstration projects or pilot projects to help people slow down. And then we could take in data to figure out which solutions are actually working and include in the application the cost to implement those solutions. So that's kind of what I'm thinking the proposed scope should be. And obviously it has to be different from the Raise scope, because it's both, they're all going to USDOT, and then they would notice, and they, you know. So, and then you have to complete the projects within 5 years.
Great.
That's great. I just want to mention, we really need to have a work session of the board, and that might be a place where we can have that discussion too, and sooner than later.
Yeah.
So I'd like, and Steve, I would need you at this work session.
Yeah, there were two we discussed. One was, of course, the fees. There was an issue with sidewalks that you wanted to go over.
Right, exactly,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So that's what I was
Set
thinking.
up a time for that.
Yeah.
Afternoons work better for me than evenings these days, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you give me a number of evenings, I'm sure I could come up with one.
Okay, so we're gonna poll the board as to some dates, and try to get that done within the next week and a half, so.
So we could talk about the scope and the code.
Yeah.
Yep, at the same time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can we also talk about the newsletter?
We
in
we
the
sure can.
Discussion.
And we might need two work sessions, so, but that's okay. It's good. I mean, there's just a lot. There's also review of the ethics that has been
I've got to
rewritten.
work on that with Bill a little bit more, but that'll be ready in May at some point.
Okay.
Maybe for that second meeting that I come to.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Not necessarily to be an act, but at least for discussion further with the board.
right, okay. And also short-term rentals.
Yeah, I forgot where we left off on short-term rentals, to be honest with you.
Okay, we'll pick up the pieces. We'll figure it out.
I'll give you a
Okay.
call tomorrow.
Okay.
I also met with the youth and, I meet monthly with the high schoolers, the youth and government course, club, and they're really interested in getting even more deeply involved. So we now have 4 students on the stakeholder advisory group, which is kind of cool. Like they're growing. Yep, and so they're really interested in ways that they can help and participating in the open house. And I did mention to them the Warwick Cares event in early May. So also would love the board to be thinking about kind of ways that we could more deeply engage students in our work.
That's good. I'm so glad that you've reached out and you've kind of set that schedule with them. It's wonderful.
It's fun.
So, yeah, it's really good.
They're really smart.
Yeah, they are. Mary?
Okay, so my report from the Historical Society. They hosted an event last night, the first of its kind, to celebrate the history of the Red Swan. It was called An Evening at the Red Swan. It was a great event. I just want to congratulate Nora and Lisa and everyone for doing such a great job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
it was
you
a-
too, as the MC. The date for the party in the park has changed this year. It'll be in June. It will be on June 17th, and the party in the park will be, it happens in Lewis Park. There's still time to become a sponsor. Their website is warwickhistory.org, and their phone number is 986-3236. And they also are in their new office, which is across the street from Village Hall at 80 Main Street. Warwick Community Center, this month there is a special show happening. This is Owen Huey's senior project. It is a benefit for the Warwick Skate Park Initiative. It's called Rock for Skate. That will be happening on April 28th at 5 p.m. It's a $5 entry fee, which is cash only. And performing will be Identity Crisis, Balloon Animals, and Subway Tuna. You can, I love these band names. For more information, you can email Warwick Rock for Skate. That's the number 4, SK, the number 8 at gmail.com. And I just want to say on a personal note, as a teenager, I spent a lot of time going to these types of shows, so I love to see that they're still happening. And now they're happening in like a healthier, safer environment that's closer to home. So I'm very excited about this, and that's all I have.
Oh, what about the, did you talk about the award ceremony?
No.
Oh.
Were you going to talk about the awards
I
ceremony?
thought you would. Yeah, just a brief.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Friday at, what's the name of the park?
Mountain Lake.
Mountain Lake.
Friday at Mountain Lake Park, the Warwick Community Center Coalition hosted an awards ceremony for middle schooler and teenagers that submitted PSA projects, short little videos. It was a lovely event.
So the projects were dealing with various issues, drug and alcohol issues, bullying,
Internet safety.
Right? Peer pressure. So it was pretty amazing, and it was middle school and high school students that did it. And it was an award ceremony, so it was a little bit like the Oscars for
Red
the.
carpet. Yeah, it was very nice.
Very nice. Yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
No report?
No report. Oh boy. I only have really one thing to report.
You want me to open that again?
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So the village and the town of Warwick have combined, and also I think the village of Florida and Greenwood Lake are going to be coming along on an initiative called Warwick Cares. This came from actually Judy Batista as an advocate on suicide prevention. She came to myself and to Mike Sweeten and just had this idea of creating a campaign of just bringing a lot of focus and attention on mental health issues and suicide prevention. And that was sort of the kernel, that was the beginning. And we created a sort of a intro, not even a task force. It was just sort of, this is what we're thinking about doing. And so many people came out and so many people wanted to volunteer and help that it then broke down into subcommittees and all sorts of things. So it really has some motion, which is really great, which is really what our community is about. And when we see a challenge, we're really up for the task. So, and also part of this is the real of this campaign is to really make it people aware that there's a new suicide and crisis lifeline, and it's dialing 988. Similar that you dial 911. It used to be there was an 800 number, suicide or something like that, which if you are in crisis or in distress, the last thing you're going to do is try to remember, that number. So 988 makes it very succinct and very clear. Some of the initiatives are, so there is going to be a kickoff ceremony, an event, and that's May 6th, and it's a Saturday from 12 to 4 p.m. on Railroad Green. And there's going to be many people that are going to participate And it's going to be fun, but it's also going to be serious in terms of the issues that surround it. But there's going to be local artists and poets and musicians, and so it's the idea is to have a supportive and loving, kind of celebration, but also education. And it's been wonderful working with Judy. She's a dynamo. She's incredible. And she's brought in so many people to be part of this. The Ecumenical Council is participating. The school is participating. Rotary, the Lions. I mean, the roster is long and it's growing. So that's what's exciting about it. And it's really going to initiate about signage. Really getting the word out about 988, but also the idea that Warwick cares, the idea that if somebody is in distress, that for them to know implicitly that they have a community where they can find support. And sometimes we forget that. And so this is a way of really reminding everyone that there is someone or something out there. And part of this will also be, more education about resources that we have right here in our county, and I think that's important. That education is a really important part of it. So I just want to invite everyone for this event on May 6th. Even if you just come for a little while, pick up some literature, sign up for an activity that's going to happen maybe in the future. It's definitely I think something that is really needed, and I'm looking forward to working more with Judy on this whole event. I'm just trying to think. I'm reading from the web page, and do you have a postcard?
I might.
Because I can't read the small print
I
here.
might have just emptied.
Yeah.
Nope.
No, that's okay. I think I've said enough. I think people get the idea.
There's more info on the Village of Warwick's Facebook page.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll see banners and signs that will be out there in the next weeks. So it's going to be, it will really be out there in a bold way, which is great. I have nothing else tonight. We do not have an executive session, so can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Final comments from the floor, though.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Here I am. I'm just tired. Sorry, guys. I know. I just wasn't looking at my agenda. Anyway, final comments from the floor. Only if you've signed in. So, no comments? Okay.
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks.
Wow. That's like industrial.
It is. A lot. That was packed agenda.
It was a packed
We're
agenda.
still live, actually, so we're just gonna
Oh,
go
yes,
ahead
there we
and-
go.
That was a film thing.
Yeah.
Where's Meg?
I just really like Mary.
Oh, Mary, okay. Michael, may I
Yes.
have the recorder, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, I'm gonna stop this.
Do you think, so I was contemplating, I was trying to
Good night,
think
Steve.
what to send. Good night, thank you.
Good night, Steve. Thank you. We'll talk tomorrow.
To send Mark Damia for the website, for the update on the plan. And do you think that I should send him the current
night.
preliminary draft?
Good night.